Now join me, in my opinion, the perfect guest to navigate how sports, race, and culture intersect. Every time he's on TV or radio, what do? I turn up the volume. Because of the level of insight and intelligence he has is unmatched. A Swiss Army knife. I mean, the man could do it all. Think Taysom Hill, Mookie Betts, or even if you're old head, Cordell Stewart. Member of the Sportsnet team as a host, both on TV and radio, as well as a writer on sportsnet.ca, co-host of the Waggle podcast. I present Donnovan Bennett. DJ, what's good, bro?
Hey, man, with that intro, I was starting to look around like, yo, am I on the right Zoom call? Did I get the right link? He's talking about somebody else. So I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. I'm sorry I have to turn up the volume when I'm on. I'll have to be better at saying it with my chest so you don't have to turn it up anymore.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you. I appreciate all you do. And I also appreciate that you're coming for my job, too. You know, it's not bad enough that you're still playing, you're still doing your thing, but also dabbling in the media game. So I'm gonna continue to collect these checks while I can. But thank you for having me, man.
For sure. You set the bar, man. Like you play football, then you got into media. Like what I want to know first, like how, like when that became part of your game plan, your life game plan, when you're at Western, like when did getting into media become part of your one of your goals?
I mean, I wasn't good enough at anything else, I suppose. I didn't have any options. No, like, so all the way coming up, if I was, writing a term paper or doing a presentation in school, it was about sports, right? So after school, always playing sports. Every term I was on a team and then playing, in the summer. But I would try and work sports into my education. So like economics presentation was about the Larry Bird exemption in the NBA CBA. Like I was always trying to find an angle in sports. And so I knew I was going to study media. I had some interest in marketing and whatnot. But I was going to study media and communications in school and also play ball. And so whatever school I went to would have been a marriage of the two. What's the best situation for both, right? So like if it was just media, I would have gone to Ryerson. I would have been a Ryerson Ram, but they couldn't tell me what their zone read schemes were because they don't have a football team.
Right.
So they were off the list. And so and then playing, I did not win the genetic lottery, certainly. Playing, as you want to play until they steal the ball from you.
100%.
And I played in university, whatnot, and I was undersized player, had like a decent career, but I wasn't breaking any records or anything like that. I'm a Canadian at a skill position, and that skill position is tailback. And this is like 07. So this is not, John Cornish. This is not Andrew Harris, right? This is not even Jesse Lumsden, never mind, right?
Yeah.
Like he hadn't even been on and got an opportunity. Actually, Jury and I were the same class. So I remember, I'll go back. I had not realized, because at my house in university, me and Mike Foltz was one of my roommates. You had to fight to take NFL Network off the television.
Yeah.
Like you need to give me a good reason why we're not watching NFL Network. So we would watch the combine and the draft like it was like it was an election.
Yes.
And so based off of that mentality and based off of like I'm watching Reggie Bush live in the bod pod, like let me see what's good. I assumed like the Canadian draft process was like that as well. And it's much closer now, but back then it wasn't like that at all. And so I didn't really hear anything from teams. I didn't have any workouts or anything like that. I got like a letter from the Tiger Cats, who were the worst team in the league at the time. And I'm like, all right, well, like there's no one's really checking for me. So I just like, I'm going to go all in on media for the rest of my final year, make sure I get a foot in the door there, get an opportunity. Next thing you know, like 2 weeks before the draft, I was like, hey, can you come work out? Hey, I'm like, are you kidding me? I had stopped training. I was literally, I'm like, I'm investing 100 into getting something done in the media, because that's also a competitive space. So I kind of did a workout for the Argos and like Miles Garrell and those guys, and they I didn't get drafted, and I was actually at the Score working for them, interning as the draft was happening. But I got an invite to camp. They invited 3 running backs that they did not draft. Myself, Randy McCauley, who was a teammate, and Dury. And they also signed a bunch of like American, like NFL free agents and whatnot to come to camp. Guys who, you know, had a resume and all that type of thing. And I was talking through it with my dad, and I was talking through it with D Ford, who was a mentor of mine in media and who I was kind of, you know, apprenticing under. And I'm like, you know what? I want, if I'm going to be in this media thing, I'm going to be at 100. I don't want them to, as I'm just starting, I don't want them to think, well, you know what, like 3 weeks from now, someone gets hurt, you know, he's going to be out to Winnipeg on, like, you know, a little short tryout or whatever. I didn't want to give anyone any excuses not to give me an opportunity, because as a minority, you already have excuses, right? So I was like, you know what, I'm probably just going to be a camp body. I'm probably just going to be a tackling dummy and be in there running around for exercise and not really, you know what I mean? Like not really getting a real look, right? Like, yeah, okay, I'm looking at this back running in the flats, but I'm not throwing it to him. All right, I'm just, you know, doing what I'm gonna do. So I went all in on the media thing, and that's kind of been the story ever since. That it's just like whatever I'm doing, you know, I'm putting in 100 into it, and you know, then I'll be able to sleep good at the end of the day, knowing that like I did my piece, and if it was meant to be, cool. And then if, you know, God has another plan, cool. So that's how the media piece came in. But I wanted to use my football experience as a way to get an opportunity, and so I was able to cover university football to start, because that's the language that I spoke. And in my last year playing at Western, the Score had the university coverage at the time. I was like, listen, you know, I'm fully expecting to win a Vanier Cup, and this one I was interning at the Score that summer before my last season. But anyway, how we lose, I'm happy to come and help with your coverage and whatnot. And this is the first year they had the Vanier, so it was like the Super Bowl for them at the time. And they're like, yeah, okay, cool. So we lose. I drove myself to Ottawa, helped them on their coverage, like just behind the scenes, like not on camera. And I'm thinking, like, you know, in the playoffs, they bring like, okay, yo, D'Angelo Hall, come in here. You just played, you know, let's break it down, whatever. No, I was like rolling cables. I was in the booth. Yeah, no, it was no glamorous thing. I was not in studio with Steph Potasic and Jesse Lumden. I was like rolling cable. I was in for the Vanier. It was in Saskatchewan. It was in Regina, and I was like, yo, you know, I can fly out and help you guys if you want. And they're like, really? And even in my head, you know, when sometimes you have like an out of body experience where you're watching yourself do something, and I'm like, really? And I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna save up a little bit of money. Instead of going on a spring break trip, I'll fly out there, put myself up, and I'll do whatever you need. And they're like, yeah, at least we have no budget to bring you up, but we could use the help, so come through. So I did, and that was kind of like, you know, my bet on yourself moment before Van Vliet.
Yeah.
It was not glamorous. My role that week was I was in the booth standing behind Tim McAuliffe and Dwayne Ford, who were calling the game, and I was on a cell phone. I was on my my Sidekick, which I drove to Buffalo to buy because we didn't have them here, and got them unlocked. And I would be talking to them back in Toronto, telling them where the ball was spotted and thus where they should put the first down line, like the virtual first down line. Yeah, like now, like, you know, some satellite probably just does it by itself. Yeah. But now, like, that's what I was like. So, yo, the ball's spotted here, so the first down line has to be X in front of that.
Right.
But I'm like whispering because I don't want to get picked up on the telecast because McAuliffe is looking over his shoulder, giving me screw face. So So that was it. Not glamorous at all. But that week out in Regina, like firsthand, it was like an education on the industry. Because since it was a big deal for the score, everyone was there. So Cabby was there doing hits. Obviously, McAuliffe was doing the game with Dwayne Ford. Sid Sixero was there. And then Verk was there, who was at ESPN, is now at the Zone. Sarah Oleski was doing pregame. Wow. She is now at TSN.
Sideline reporting.
What's that?
She's doing sideline reporting.
She's doing sidelines at TSN. But not even just the people in front of the camera. All of the production staff were all people still working in the industry doing like much bigger things. So Dawn Landis, who directs a lot of CFL games, and she's the go-to person at CTV, just to give you a level of understanding of how real she is. The last time there was the royal wedding, like she directed the Canadian coverage. Like, wow. That's like, she's legit, but she was on that Vanier Cup broadcast, right? So all these people who went on to do amazing things in the industry, I got to see them work firsthand, but also they got to see me work, and they got to see like, okay, yo, this kid, like, he's about his business, like he's taking this craft serious, he's trying to learn. And so when I graduated, it was something that was a differentiator from the rest of my graduating class who all wanted to get into media. So I got a shot at the Score. Again, super entry level. My first job was working in closed captioning. And they had this system. It was like basically Siri before Siri, where you watch what's going on and then you re-say everything that you hear, and then the automated system spits out what you say for people who are watching with closed captions, and then you just manually put in like the punctuation and which speaker's talking like that. And it was a terrible job, and I got all of the night and weekend shifts, but it got me in the door, and it allowed me to do other stuff and just hustle similarly and do stuff for free until I could get some paper doing it. I started associate producing, and for free. Had so many ideas. Eventually I got part-time doing that, and I had so much stuff on the go that the hosts were getting pissed off that they'd have to like come into the booth where I was voicing stuff and like point and do sign language to ask me questions about my scripts. So they're like, yo, can we just hire this dude full-time already? So he doesn't have to be the Amon family and have 3 jobs at the same workplace. And so that's how I got full-time as a producer. And then I was producing so much stuff that I didn't have hosts to be in the stuff. So I was like, I'll front the stuff. And like we had it's funny how your opportunities in life just come. You never know when they're gonna come, but you have to be ready. We had we got the NCAA tournament. Big deal for us. Yeah. One of the pieces of advice McAuliffe gave me was have like 10 ideas ready, pitch them, and if they're down for 2, it's only 20%, but that's 2 new things you're working on. And always kind of believe that like if something doesn't work out, you're good, because you're good enough to come up with the next idea. So I pitched all these NCAA ideas, and I was starting to do some production on that. And then one of the producers, like a feature producer, who was doing a feature on Syracuse, because they stay having Canadians on their basketball team. Yep. And he kind of was just doing so many. He was on the road. He was missing his family. He was a bit sick. He's like, I'm out. Like, I'm not going to do this one. And then the supervising producer is like, yo, this guy needs a break. Do you want to go do this Syracuse feature? Yeah, down. Never done anything before like that. But I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I go out, shoot this feature, Syracuse. We were supposed to get 2. And then I was talking to the PR. I'm like, yo, I can get these. We've got these 2. Can I get a next one? Yeah, okay, we work it out. He gives me another player. So I did the 2 properly the way I was supposed to. I'm the producer, on the camera, behind the camera, getting the answers. And then for the last one, I'm like, yo, I'm going to put myself in this one. And that's kind of how I'm going to get on, kind of on air. We do it, whatnot, goes well. So I come back. I'm like, yo, got the 2. We're good. Here you go. Also, I got this next one. It's the 3rd one. I'm in it. Are you interested? If not, it's cool. No harm, no foul. You asked me to get 2. But I have a next one. I'm in it. They're like, yeah, we'll take it. And so the next year that came around, the next season, not only was I doing NCAA features and producing them, it was just an expectation that I would be in them. Like, oh, well, you're going to do it. You're going to do both. We don't have to send a host. We're going to save money and you're going to do it. And similarly, when there was a change in who was producing the college football games that I was on, the university ones, when that new producer came in, I'm like, yo, we need to do some halftime features just to fill in the time. And, you know, I can do them. I can tell the stories. And he didn't really know how it went down before.
Right.
And he's like, okay. So that's how we started doing halftime features, and I was in them. And then halftime features went from U Sports football to CFL football, from CFL football to NFL football, from NFL to NBA, and then it just builds, right? So it's all continued to build until I have the pleasure to be on this podcast. That's what we built to. So, Mama, I made it.
That's definitely inspiring, because I'm looking at your journey. I'm thinking, you know, it's kind of, you know, the same kind of path that I'm thinking I want to go down. So it's interesting to hear that, because kind of trying to follow in your footsteps. You know, I've been playing for a while, and media is something I've always been interested in, but just never, you know, kind of had the time to, you know, put the footsteps in. So this year I was like, okay, I'm going to do as many things I can do. I want to go work the combine, you know, I'll do some media for that. And that was all set up, but obviously the pandemic hit and, you know, things got put on the back burner. So I'm like, okay, let me just start a podcast, start talking to my friends, you know, teammates and, you know, cool people. And that's why you're on, and see where that takes me. So it's been super fun and super exciting. But, you know, more to your time at Western, like, for people listening, what kind of running back were you? Like, would you compare yourself to that's playing today, CFL, NFL?
Okay. Ooh.
Let the people know. I got the tape, so just let the people know.
Oh God, there's not that much tape, and it's like it's SD too. It's not even HD. It's not 4K. So okay. So I'll make a reference to running backs that were playing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So in my, and I know you have this, right? Every player has this. It's where, you know, a play happens and you're in the play, right? So you know what's going on, and you have like a vision of that play, how it went down. And then you come back and you watch the film, and you're like, oh yeah, that's not really what happened.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Oh man, like I broke that off for 35, and I broke 3 tackles. And you watch the film, like, dog, that was like a 15-yard possession catch. Like, so in my mind, I was Warwick Dunn. Or no, sorry. In my mind, I was Marshall Faulk, right?
Okay.
I was like, you know, split me out. I'm gonna be a receiver. I'm gonna be the baddest receiver on the field. I've got the mind where I'm telling the quarterback like what his checks are, because I'm so smart, right? And I've got the Chris Berman whoop. Like, you know, when Marshall Faulk was just running, and then he would just like stop.
Yeah.
And just let he's not even breaking the tackle. He's just letting you run past.
Yes.
And then he's going again, right?
Yeah.
It's like 60,
that was
0,
sick.
60.
That was sick. No one really does that. So Saquon kind of does it, but that was an art for him.
Yes. So in my mind, I was Marshall Faulk. In reality, I was probably like closer to Warwick Dunn, right? No disrespect to Warwick Dunn.
Oh, productive.
He was real.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
Marshall was a Hall of Famer, and Warwick Dunn was.
Like, so if we're talking FSU, you know, in my mind I was Peter Warwick. In reality, I was PK Sam, right? Like, so I was like an approximation of what I thought, but not really all the way there. So those were good times for
sure. So now, you know, we got the fun stuff out the way. I got to get into a little bit more serious. I want to know what you think the biggest reason for this movement that we have going on right now, because, you know, throughout time we've seen and witnessed countless amount of Black men lose their lives to, you know, police brutality. And Now we're seeing protests all around the world, prominent white people, joining the cause. And, that really gives me the feeling that, it's different. And then, sports aren't fully back, but, we're seeing NASCAR, put on displays and statements. German Bundesliga, guys protesting. And the Premier League, I know they announced that they're going to change the names on the back of guys' jerseys, and they're going to have Black Lives Matter. And that's huge, right? So I want to know from your point of view, why was George Floyd's murder the turning point, to say the least?
Doggy, we had Black Lives Matter protests with thousands of people in Winnipeg.
Saskatchewan in Winnipeg.
Too. Like, it wasn't just like Huskies and Riders and Bisons and Bombers. Like, it was thousands of people. I never thought, forget about, like, people were talking about, 10 years ago, I never thought, like, 10 weeks ago, I never thought I would see anything like that. I don't know. I don't really have a good answer as to why. And to be honest, I'm a bit cynical in terms of, like, well, I mean, this is good. I guess we're all thinking more. We're getting on Zooms. We're spending more time contemplating because, we've got this pandemic going on. But, Ahmaud Arbery's video came out a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
Breonna Taylor died a couple weeks ago. Akeem Alou wrote a Players Tribune article about his racist treatment in sports a couple weeks ago, about a week ago. Like, so why all of a sudden now are people putting out, statements, pure statements? Dude, Lego put out a statement. You have to tell me that your Lego pieces aren't racist? Like, everybody's like, Netflix is putting out a statement. Netflix, you're supposed to profile me. Yeah. Like, that's what you do. Mm-hmm. And you're putting out a statement. So I'm not really sure why. I don't have a good reason. I do think, I don't know. To be honest, I kind of, and this is not about police brutality, but just how we respond to these types of crises. Because, I mean, if you couldn't get behind the story of Trayvon Martin, who was walking home with Skittles, and he loses his life to a vigilante. If you couldn't get behind Tamir Rice, who's 12 years old, just playing at a park, and within seconds loses his life because he's playing with a BB gun, and his officers thought it was a real gun, then I'm not really sure why you'd get behind this. I mean, I lost it when, and this is separate but still tragedy. After the Sandy Hook murders happened, and Barack Obama couldn't pass legislation in terms of gun reform, I'm like, all right, it's a wrap. Like, these little kids in this small lily white town all died for no good reason. And really, like, you have to be out here playing commando because it's your amendment right. So I lost all hope then. I do wonder, and this is the only explanation I have, and it's not a good one, and I'm curious as to what you and your listeners feel like. I wonder if the confluence of events happening is the difference. So if we remember, this is Memorial Day Monday.
Yeah.
In the morning, Amy Cooper in Central Park uses her white privilege as a shield.
Oh, yes.
And weaponizes Christian Cooper by saying, I'm going to call the police on you. And when she does, she describes him as, an African-American, and that she's afraid for her life, right? Like, that's the bingo card of, Popo are about to show up with bad intentions.
Yeah.
So we saw how she used that scenario as a weapon, knowing full well how dangerous that could be for Christian Cooper, who, by the way, like, was not a threat. My guy was watching birds, like, literally, like, the most peaceful thing other than yoga he could have been doing in the park. That night, that evening, George Floyd loses his life in such a cavalier fashion. The police officer has his hand in his pocket. He's got a smirk on. Like, he was just so comfortable. And so I think people on both ends of the spectrum saying, oh wow, like, she just played this like it's nothing. She just used this as if it means nothing. And on the flip side, this police officer just killed this man like it's nothing. And then 3 other police officers were just chilling, one of which was more concerned that people were not staying on the sidewalk
right
than the murder that was happening if he did a reverse pivot and looked behind him. So I think having the yin and yang of those two scenes really brought it home for people. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. In both of those scenarios, the black life literally did not matter.
Did not.
That's the only reason I have, because no other explanation makes any sense to me. And as much as I respect the companies who have come out with statements, well, I mean, are the other lives less important to George Floyd's? Like, I don't really get that. Or are you making a statement now because it's trending? Or are you making a statement now because your competitor made a statement and you better make a statement because people right now are keeping receipts? I'm not sure, but I'm not sure. I don't really have a good answer, but that's the only thing I've been able to come up with, because any other explanation to me doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I know. Last week, we had a professor from the University of Texas come on. It's actually my sister-in-law, and she was telling us it was almost like the perfect storm of events to happen. You know, a global pandemic where everybody's inside on their phones, witnessing everything that's happening, being able to share it, and just having so many eyes around the world on that one incident, having prominent athletes speak out about it, just the perfect storm of events that happened to kind of put it on the forefront of everybody's minds. And it's still, you still don't know why exactly that particular one was the one, but I'm just happy that, you know, right now people are, especially white people, are taking note and educating themselves and trying to learn and understand like where we're coming from. Like last week, I told the story of when I was, you know, people don't think racism happens in Canada, but I'm like, are you guys blind? Like, I remember being 15 before football practice. I live in an apartment building and I go downstairs, SWAT team is downstairs. They're like, get on your stomach. I'm like, what's going on? And I get on your stomach and shut up. So I get on my stomach. I'm like, yeah, I'm not trying to get shot. I get on my stomach. They're like, there's an active investigation right now. We're looking for suspects. You look like one of the guys. I'm like, okay, so I'm 15-year-old black guy. You're just gonna, you know, arrest every 15-year-old black guy in this building? There's like 40 of us. Like, this is what we're doing. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, this is wild. But I'm obviously just gonna be quiet so I don't get shot. But I'm thinking, I go to football practice after that. Actually, even before that, I'm in the police car. I live close to my school. My teachers, like classmates, teammates are all driving by. They see me. It's like, it's not a big deal. It's not a big surprise. I'm like so embarrassed. Then I go to football practice. I tell my coaches, tell my teammates, and no one is surprised. So that just shows you like what's going on. Like things like this happen all the time, especially in Canada. And I heard you on, I think when you guys were talking to Nate, say you had a bet, and when you were at Western, like how many touchdowns you score or how many times you get pulled over. So that's just wild to me that, you know, people are still thinking this stuff doesn't happen in Canada.
Yeah, and the London Police Department outscored me for sure. They like, we were talking about you know, whether I was Warwick Dunn or Marshall Falk. They were like LaDainian Tomlinson. Like they were out here like just flipping the football. Like real talk. So I can't remember if I said this to Nate or not, because I you know, I've been all over the place talking about this issue. I feel like I'm on a book tour for a book that I didn't write. But so what? There's like Richmond Row in London. It's like kind of the party area, and it's, you know, a bit detached from the campus or from the kind of student ghetto or whatnot. So you know, I had a car for the last couple of years, and you know, in season I'd go out with the team, whatever, but I didn't drink that much, if at all, right? Because, you know, even if it wasn't going to be a thing, I just liked kind of mentally being like, yeah, I know what this jerk was doing last night. So when it's time to compete at practice, I kind of have a leg up. So I wouldn't drink all that much. So I would drive and I'd be the DD. But the nice thing about having a car is like, you don't have to wait for nobody. When the night's over, it's over. Like it's a wrap, and you can leave, and you can you can go home, or, you know, if you have a companion, you can also leave whenever you want, right? And go through the McDonald's drive-through and bring out the "two can dine for $6.99" coupon.
Late day.
And play some TI. You can have whatever you want. But I would drive, and so there was a thing where some people, instead of just driving on the main roads to get to and from, and leave kind of downtown and get back to campus or the area around campus, some people would drive on like some kind of residential kind of back roads, whatever, because they were trying to avoid ride. Like they were trying to avoid, you know, having to blow in a breathalyzer if they think they may have drank too much. Doggy, I was driving those back roads so I could avoid being profiled because I just didn't want the hassle, right? So just think about that dynamic. There's a bunch of my white friends were probably drinking and driving, and they're driving the same roads I am, but for totally different reasons. So like that is a level of privilege that they didn't think about the police in the same way that I did. Yeah. They didn't think about them as a threat in the same way as I did. And so, you know, a similar story to yours, although it didn't get as far as it wasn't even when I was young. This is like, I was dating my now wife at the time. So in the last, 8, 9, 10 years, I was living in like a townhouse that was like lot split. So every number had like an A and a B, right? So let's say 15A, 15B. And I was normal night watching movies. My brother was over with my girl, just very, you know, basic and boring. Crazy knock on the door. Crazy knock, like you're trying to break the door down. So I'm like, who's out here aggressively knocking on my door? So I open the door, two officers, like holstered ready at the door as I open it, asking me questions. Where were you? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, excuse me? Like, what? And then, so I'm not even like really listening to what they're saying, because the whole scene is just like bizarre. And so they're aggressively asking where I'm like, I've been here the whole time, whatever. So now they're laughing. Oh yeah, sure you have, blah, blah, like trying to like, you know, challenge me or goat me into saying something. And I'm literally like bewildered as to what's going on. And then eventually I think one of the officers realizes that like the look on my face is not like defiance. It's just like confusion. And then he's like kind of like taking it in. And then he's like, oh, you know, I'm okay. I'm sure you're correct. We got the wrong house and you fit the description and whatnot. So they were supposed to be at whatever, let's say 15B. They're supposed to be at 15A. And they were just ready to see a brother when they opened the door for whatever they were looking into or investigating. And I just happened to be the one. Yeah. And they were willing and ready to make it a confrontation, as they were kind of, you know, being confrontational with their speech and with their language. You know, they didn't open the door with a notepad and start like jotting down questions. Okay, so at what time were you here? And can anyone corroborate that? Like they were opening the door, like ready to do something. And so that's kind of, you know, my only real, other than driving while black, which happens to all of us. That's my only real adverse situation with the cops. But I remember when I was at Western, you know, and I got pulled over for no reason. The cop asked, okay, you know, what are you doing here? Who are you? What's going on? You know, my address on my license would have been, you know, Toronto. So why are you in London? And I said, I'm a student. I'm here. I think it was in the summer. I'm here, go to the University of Western, came here to throw or whatever the reason was. And the cop goes, oh, you're a Western football player? Oh, you go to Western? Oh, well, why didn't you say that? And I was like, first of all, I didn't say anything because I'm just like, just get home, get saved, hands on 10 and 2, yes sir, no sir. But I was like, oh, I'm sorry, you pulled me over for no reason, and I'm just supposed to like flash my helmet out the window, like I'm supposed to just drive. You know what I mean? I'm supposed to just drive around and at all times, not a threat.
Right.
Working on my education. Hey, love off tackle runs. Play for the school down the street. Like, what sense does that make that you are determining whether or not I have the capability to commit a crime, on whether or not I have the capability to go to school and get into a university or be recruited to play football? That makes no sense. But yeah, that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff doesn't make sense. Like, I was talking to one of my best friends I grew up with, an Italian guy, Chris Rossetti. I don't know if you've heard of him because he works for the Dolphins now. Yeah, so I was my best friend growing up, and he has 3 brothers, so I was at his house a lot. So, but the contrast between what the experiences I experienced between what he experienced, like, really came to the forefront when I was talking to him this week, and he's like, "Man, this is unbelievable," because his mom, was talking to my family a lot, so she kind of knew what was going on with me, especially incidents like getting picked, like SWAT team telling me to get down. So she knew those things, but he didn't know. So he was telling me, he was like, Natey, I was talking to my mom, and she's like telling me all this stuff that happened to you that none of us ever experienced, and it's like, it really makes sense now. And I'm like, bro, it's a lot more crazy stuff that happened for me and some of my friends, even crazier, that that you'd never seen, but you live a different life. Like, we do a lot of the same things together, go to practice, sports, go to games and all that, but our lives are completely different when we're not with each other, and our experiences are really different when we're not each other. So I thought that was like extremely interesting, and that's why I'm happy a lot of this is going on, because a lot of people that just because you aren't racist, but if you're not joining the fight and really like trying to educate yourself, like, you're part of the problem. So that's why I'm really excited that this is happening. I go here. So I want to know, where do you stand on Cap? Because a couple coaches now come on and like said that they regret not signing him, and I'm like, this is interesting how that works. Like, now you're saying you regret not signing him. You didn't say it last year or the year before. Hugh Jackson, Pete Carroll, to name a couple. Jackson actually said he wanted him, but he was making excuses and said the decision was out of his control. And Pete Carroll said that at the time, I think it was either 2018 or 2017, he said that Cap, he thought was a starter and was sure he was going to get picked up. So, I mean, to me, I don't know what that sounds like. It sounds like an excuse to me, but what does that sound like to you?
Just that the overall discourse has changed, right? Like, Drew Brees said the exact same things he said now in 2016. Yes. And in fact, people in the media said the exact same things that Drew Brees said. But now Drew Brees said it, and I was like, is a primetime Hall of Fame quarterback about to get canceled? Like, is he going to get canceled?
Right.
People in New Orleans were chanting F Drew Brees. And so it just shows you how quickly minds have changed. I mean, it's not quick enough for Cap's sake, because my guy's been out for 4 football seasons. Like, Vic went to jail, and he came back after 2, and he wasn't close to the same player.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the thing that worries me is that, okay, someone signs Cap, and he's not as good, which could have happened if he just continued to play football for the last 4 years. But never mind, didn't play. And then an entire side of the conversation says, see, he wasn't good in the first place. You don't go from a starter in the National Football League to all of a sudden not being one of the 90 best quarterbacks in the world. And I'll even make that like 99 best, because starters in the CFL could be on NFL rosters, right, no question. Right. So you don't just go from being a starter to not in the top hundreds of the thing that you do, especially when Ron Jaworski, like 2 years before that, said this guy's going to change the position.
Yes,
change the position.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Colin Kaepernick in a playoff game out-dueled Aaron Rodgers. Like, take that in, and went to the Super Bowl. And if not for, like, the
blackout,
not say shutting off the power, like maybe he beats like one of the best defenses all time, not for Crabtree having some alligator arms, maybe we're looking at Kaepernick entirely different.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I it's not fair to him, but I almost wonder if his message is stronger now that he is, a martyr and a symbol, right? Like, in 25 years, are people going to be, selling Kaepernick posters at the university poster sale with, Ali and Bob Marley and, Che Guevara and stuff like that? Like probably. If putting posters on your wall is something that people still do back then, it'll probably just be like a hologram. Yeah, I don't know. I remember when all that went down, I think the Ticats were the first team to put him on their neg list.
He's still on there.
Is he still on there?
Yeah.
Well, they might as well just remove him because he hasn't come. I remember they put like RG3 on there at the time. Yeah. Obviously, Manziel.
Yeah.
If he hasn't come now, he ain't come. So you're welcome, Scott Mitchell, for that advice. Might as well take your boy off there. I would love to see him. I would love to see him get a shot. I'd love to see him just ball out too. Now that basically all offenses are ones that were built the way that John Harbaugh built that offense for him. But yeah, I'm conflicted on how the cap situation is, because if he gets a chance now, this is just the NFL being able to take on an eraser and kind of rewrite the history.
Yes, when
exactly right. So but no, I stand with Cap 100%.
No, it's like one of those things where you become more famous if when you die, especially if you're a popular person, and like his popularity rose exponentially when he became a martyr, so to say. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm at. I want him to get a shot, but like you said, like imagine sitting out for 4 years. To play professional football with guys that have been training. I mean, he says he's training, but it's different when you're playing. That. It'd just be interesting how that works. And then the Mike Vick example is an example I hadn't thought of, where it was just like 18 months, and he comes back and he wasn't the Mike Vick we remember seeing. So that's interesting. You've kind of been a bit outspoken about the NFL's action, or better inaction, regards to social justice issues. What does the $250 million they pledged to social injustice say to you?
I mean, they just changed the accounting, right? Like, they have money earmarked for social causes, right? Tackle cancer is a cause. The NFL play initiative of getting youth involved in sports. Salute to service for the military. So you've got this overall number of amount of money that you're going to devote, right? Philanthropically, which is in a way still nice branding and marketing for you. And so if you just change the accounting on what you give to those other causes and don't give more in general, you're just changing it with a pendulum swings based on what people care about, more or less. The owners aren't really out any money. They don't really feel the distance. The distance is just really a PR measure in terms of addressing what the public wants to talk about and wants to see you work on. So certainly it's not nothing. I don't want to say that, because it is a significant amount of money, but I mean, they've got the opportunity and the power to quickly like this make some real fun foundational change. That's very simple. How about you just change the name of the team in Washington? How does that sound, for starters? That's just easy. That's just an easy way. That's just a layup for you. Not even in the game, just a pre-game easy up as we're listening to the Rough Riders anthem.
Right.
So that would be easy if you really care. Their record in terms of promoting minority coaches is abysmal. And I mean, there's only so much that the league can do about that. but investment on developing minority coaches so that the pool is wider would be one, so that they're not always defensive coaches, that you get some more offensive minds, maybe some incentives so that some of the black quarterbacks that are coming through want to actually stay and be coaches. But more importantly, their pipeline is college football, and as a guardian of the game, maybe making some initiatives and getting them on board so that they have some Rooney rules, so that boosters aren't deciding to hire people that look like them and that are in their circles. Those are some easy wins. Even something as simple as your cleats, your cause. 1 week a season, you're able to wear flashy cleats for a cause or initiative that's important to you, and those cleats are sold, and that money goes to charity. Why is it one? Why isn't it 18 or 19 or every week? Like what is the cost of you just saying, we're not going to be so ridiculously tight on rules and regiment on uniform. We're going to allow you to do this thing, and it's going to really, really help. And the owners literally don't have to give up anything. They don't have to give up 1 cent of money. They don't have to give up any power. Like, they're just small things like that would allow players to express themselves. It doesn't have to be on social justice or Black Lives Matter. It could be about anything.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to shout out, dreadlocks on your cleats, you can do it. But I think that there's a bunch of them. There's a list of them. And those are just the ideas I have on the top of my head. Imagine if you get all these influential people in a room, but what you can't do is just buy a solution. You can't just say, yo, Jay-Z, we'll allow you to control halftime. You're going to be the face for this movement. And then everyone's going to be like, okay, we're good. You're on the right side of history. That's not how it works. So yeah. And by the way, Jay-Z saying like, we're past kneeling, that take did not.
Oh my goodness.
It didn't play well at the moment, but it did not last well. When we have politicians and police chiefs out here kneeling, clearly that's phrasing he'd want to take back. I got to say though, the protests in this house will be Black Youths Matter. If I don't respond to my son, who's waking up, my wife will be protesting me.
Yes.
My child will be protesting me. So I know we're tight for time, so I got one more for you. So give me your best.
Okay. I appreciate you telling me that, because the protest in my house was getting pretty loud too. One more. Okay, so we'll go. You touched on the harmful stereotypes, right? What feels like forever. I had Trevor on like about a month ago. It feels like forever ago, but we talked about why, like a funny topic, why white announcers or announcers in general can never call white guys fast. Like they always have to say he's smart or he's savvy, or whatever. But it works the other way as well, and in a more harmful way. Like you'll see Brady yell at his teammates right on the sidelines, or even coaches, and they'll say, "Oh, he's a leader. He's showing passion, or he wants to win bad." And then a black guy even just has a disagreement with someone on the side, and the cameras are on him. He's got an attitude problem, or he's selfish. That kind of talk, I feel like, is harmful, like you mentioned, and it perpetuates like a narrative around black players that isn't very positive. How do we fix that? Do we just need more representation in media?
Yes, but even, and this is another thing the NFL can do really easily, is making sure that all of their broadcasters, if you're going to get the privilege to do an NFL game, take some unconscious bias training, take some communication training, so that they're aware that these things are said and that they're harmful, and they actually shape the belief and minds of people who are watching. And so if you only describe Natey as athletic, as freakishly athletic, what you're doing is you're putting an onus on his physical, his body. So when people naturally see black people, black men, big black men, they're going to see, oh my goodness, he's physical, he's a threat. But then when you only stress that Weston Dressler made a heady play, you're stressing his acumen, his smarts, his intelligence. So people are naturally going to think, well, he and people who look like him are smart or superior or sophisticated. And that certainly is a problem in, the the anger side of it and the leadership side of it is a great one because, again, if T.O. goes off on the sidelines, he's a problem. He's
a bully. He's
an enigma. Yeah, but if Steve Young goes off, well, he really wants to win, right? If Jeff Garcia goes off, he really wants to win, and that distinction is an important one. But yeah, definitely more representation for certain. I think again, an awareness of how we're using the language would be a big thing, and I'd even expand that in terms of really looking at how we describe certain positions, certain players, and what positions and situations are we encouraging people to play at the grassroots level. Why is almost every center white?
Yes.
You tell me you couldn't find a black kid to put the ball in between his legs before he started drive blocking, before he got into his reach block technique? Like all of this, almost all the centers are white. When's the last time you ran a route against a white corner?
Not since like maybe Pee Wee or high school. Yeah, no, it's been a long time. Like,
think about that.
Yeah.
There's 2 corners on the field at all times, and none of them are white.
Yeah.
But how many times you had to look out for a white safety? every game, virtually.
Yeah, you're right, man. That's
each team has. I mean, probably on the roster certainly.
We had 2 in Edmonton, white safeties.
There you go. There you go. So the positions in the middle of the field that are seen as cerebral positions, center, quarterback, safety, they're often
middle
white players.
linebacker,
middle linebacker. Then when you go outside, closer to the numbers, the more and more you see is black players. Even the receivers you get, they're slot guys.
Yeah.
Even a tight end, often there's many white tight ends. That's closer to the middle of the field. So that in general is also shaping the positions that people try out for, because you see yourself in the game, you're going to gravitate towards those positions. But then you're more likely to be stereotyped in that way if you're playing a position that is seen as extremely athletic and not as intellectual. So I think if you can be a defensive end in black and dominate, and most of the defensive ends are black, well then you probably could be a left tackle if you got on a different weight program.
Right.
Like if you are a nose tackle, which a lot of them are black, then you probably could have been a center, right? But guys go, but guys go into positions and roles based on what they've seen, and I think that coaches need to think about that as well from the young age, because you just end up continuing in those kind of boxes.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's changed kind of the way while you were saying that, I was thinking about all the positions I've ever seen growing up, and people just fit those boxes and see what they players they look up to, and kind of go into those cycles. So last thing, I know you got to run. Last thing, take about a minute. It's called gut check time. I'm gonna give you 2 names, and you just pick one that you like. Okay, Ben Johnson or Donnovan Bailey?
Donnovan Bailey.
Brad Sinopoli or Andy Fantuz?
Oh, I mean, no disrespect to Sinopoli, but Fantuz.
Haley Wickenheiser or Christine St. Clair?
Ooh. Haley Wickenheiser's using her power for good. I'm gonna say Wickenheiser.
Okay, Drake, Drizzy, or Spike Lee?
Oof. Oh. I mean, those are so different. At least the other people kind of were.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm Canadian. I'm gonna say Drake.
Okay, and last one, Tim or Sid?
Oh man. Jeez. Interesting. I mean, this segment is gut check time.
Gut check, man. Check the gut.
Well, Sid has more of one. So I will say Sid for that reason. So,
Okay.
and I'm not like
Physical.
I'm on my way there. Like, you know the term skinny fat?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm on.
so,
So,
like, I have
so
some friends.
Sid is skinny fat, and I'm not skinny fat, but I'm starting to get some skinny fat tendencies. You know, or as our friends in Atlanta, booty do, where your stomach sticks out further than your booty do. So I mean I need to get on a Kanye workout plan or just run more kilometers every week. But since the segment is gut check time, I will say Sid because he has the greater gut.
Oh man, that was awesome, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the insight. Like I said, man, every time I hear you on TV or radio, man, I'm turning up the volume because the insight, intellect, and overall intelligence, man, it's phenomenal. And I appreciate you because you're one of the people I kind of look up to. Representation, I see you doing it. I feel I can do it. So I appreciate you more than you know, and I appreciate you doing this, taking the time out of your day, man. Thank you so much, man.
No worries. Anytime you need me, I got you. Keep doing what you're doing, both on the field and off. And when you eventually take my job, I want a finder's fee. I need like 10%, because that will then transition into being your agent. So let's try and delay that for as long as possible.
Too kind, man. Thank you so much, brother.